It sounds like 16-year-old Kiely Rodni had just received her silver CRV in July of 2022, at least according to the Carfax report that Zavgirl pulled for it. Zavgirl shared the report on a live yesterday. It's a painful detail, a reminder of just how young Kiely was and how much life she had ahead of her. New driver, her first car. I had a CRV just like Kiely's, and I have such fond memories of that vehicle. Many people are now asking if someone else was in Kiely's CRV when it went into the reservoir. There are many details that are fueling this speculation. First is the long pause that the Placer County Sheriff's detective took when answering the question, was there more than one body in the vehicle?
Were there signs that the person in the car tried to escape? I think that's too preliminary for us to be able to determine that at this time.
Was there more than one body in the vehicle?
No, there was not more than one body in the vehicle.
You would think he would not have needed to pause and reflect before answering that simple question. So why did he pause? Was he simply sifting through his thoughts to make sure he didn't share any confidential information? Or was he having to hold back information that his brain wanted to share? Remember, our brains are programmed to tell the truth. And when we try to circumvent the brain and say something that isn't true, we have to make an effort to do so. I'm not saying that he's sharing false information here. I just think that he had to cut out some of the details that his brain, conjured up when that question was posed. Second, the back seat driver's side window was observed to be halfway down when the CRV emerged from the water. Was the window down from earlier in the evening, or was someone sitting back there when the CRV landed in the reservoir? We don't know, but the investigators likely do. What bothers me about that window is that it would have led to water flowing right into the CRV as soon as it made its nosedive into the water and subsequently flipped upside down. That would mean Kiely had even less time to figure out how to get out of there. The driver's side window in the front is believed to have been broken by the vehicle being righted in the water by the investigators retrieving it. Apparently, some people are spreading unsubstantiated rumors of Kiely being belted in the back of the CRV. I truly doubt that that is the case. Then there's Sammy Smith's conversation with Tony on All American Dream Chaser. We all watched as Sammy stumbled on many details and then told the story about Kiely calling her at 12:36 a.m. to ask if she needed a ride when she'd already stated that she and Kiely had hugged and said goodbye earlier. There's also the Partygoers not openly talking to law enforcement, the confusion over the two sweatshirts, the white and pink one and the black one with the Lana Del Rey lyrics, and then Sammy saying that Kiely was wearing different pants from the ones seen in the still image from the surveillance footage at the local truckie business. Kiely's final text to her mother, which P.I. Steve said had no errors in it, leading him to believe Kiely could not have been as inebriated as some have said. Some partygoers described Kiely as being barely able to stand. How could she possibly have texted coherently in that condition? And then there are those words by Doug Bishop of Adventures with Purpose, where he said, "I fully expect a lot of heavy stuff to come from this." What did he mean? Is it as simple as underage drinking that could lead to the people putting the alcohol in Kiely's hands being prosecuted? Or was it something more? I doubt Bishop will say anything more about it, though. He's probably been roped in by law enforcement by now and told to watch his words moving forward. I keep trying to pull myself away from the odd details and to stick to the simplest explanation, a tragic accident. But I have to follow the serpentine path that my mind takes me on each day as more information comes out and I process it. What happened could be due to foul play, but let me clarify. I don't mean that anyone set out to harm Kiely and take her life. It would be more like an overdose type of situation. But even Kiely being intoxicated could lead to a criminal investigation to find out who put alcohol in her hands. Now, I want to move on to a topic that may be disturbing to some, and that is drowning and the types of things the various investigators will be looking at to determine exactly what led to Kiely Rodni's passing away. Trigger warning to those who may find such conversation upsetting. According to a white paper I found on the National Library of Medicine website entitled Investigation of Drowning Deaths, a Practical Review, drowning claims 362,000 lives per year worldwide. Globally, drowning is said to be the third leading cause of unintentional injury death, and it accounts for nearly 4,000 deaths per year in the United States. The white paper stated that deaths from drowning have been found more likely to occur on weekends than weekdays. That tells me that drowning is perhaps associated with leisure activities, things like swimming at a beach or pond, boating. Where I live in Arizona, tragically, a lot of children die as a result of getting into swimming pools without supervision, and it's not uncommon as well to hear of someone drowning after a boating party with friends. Often, alcohol is involved in those boating parties, just as driving a car while intoxicated is a dangerous undertaking, so is boating while intoxicated. Clearly, water and booze together is a very dangerous combination. According to the article, some water-related deaths are attributed to accidental drowning, while a smaller number represent homicidal drowning and drowning by people who take their own lives. Others involve a combination of drowning precipitated by injury, intoxication, or environmental extremes. The article says, and I quote, "Still others involve victims that die from injury, intoxication, or a natural disease entity of such significance as to preclude the drowning process." End quote. The article goes on to explain that in water-related deaths involving submersion, efforts to explain how and why the body became submerged and why the individual was unable to self-extricate become necessary for the most accurate cause and manner of death determination. That is what the California Highway Patrol, the FBI, and local law enforcement are all tasked with determining right now in Kiely's case. These entities have likely been busy since Kiely's CRV was found trying to figure out if the 16-year-old indeed died due to drowning or if it was due to something else. Drowning is defined by Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary as to suffocate by submersion, especially in water, end quote. Dorland's Illustrated Medical Dictionary defines drowning as suffocation and death resulting from filling of the lungs with water or other substance or fluid so that gas exchange becomes impossible." End quote. By now, the authorities likely know if Kiely had water in her lungs. If so, that spells drowning, meaning she was alive when she went into the water and she breathed in water at some point. If there's no water in Kiely's lungs, that would indicate that she passed away prior to being submerged. In that case, it could spell foul play. I say could because there are cases where a person has passed away while driving. For example, a person could have a fatal heart attack while driving, die instantly, and then crash. The experts will also be hard at work determining the time of death. That will add another piece of the puzzle. According to this same article, water-related deaths often are prematurely labeled as accidental drownings. And while that is often the case, assuming a body recovered from water is an accidental drowning can hinder the timely recognition of indicators of foul play and other clues present in and around the death scene. All of that can lead to false conclusions regarding the cause and manner of death. So in Kiely's case, you can bet that medical legal death scene investigators were brought in to assess the scene at the Prosser Creek Reservoir. They will have measured exactly where the CRV was located in the water, how far from the shore the CRV was, how deep it was. We know it was 14 feet. We know it was 55 feet out, which, by the way, is not very far out, which actually leads to the assumption that she wasn't traveling that quickly. The position of the car in the water when found, the state of the car, which windows were broken or open, whether the car was in drive or neutral, where Kiely was located in the vehicle, and the particular position her body was found in. They will have also examined and photographed the ground leading to the drop-off point on that sandy beach area. Did they see tracks there matching the tire treads on Kiely's CRV? Did they see any signs of braking before the drop-off? Any skid marks? Unfortunately, because the CRV was found 2 weeks after Kiely went missing, park visitors likely drove and trampled over that beachy area before investigators arrived to study it. That's another reason that Kiely's family may feel upset that local law enforcement did not find Kiely sooner. Forensic pathologists are also likely hard at work. They are the ones who will have examined Kiely's body. They are tasked with determining the cause and manner of death. In case you don't know, as I didn't, the difference between the cause of death versus the manner of death, let me explain. The cause of death is the underlying medical condition, disease, or injury that begins a lethal chain of events resulting in death. Manner of death describes the way in which a death occurs, which may be homicide, accidental, natural, or undetermined. If the pathologists found water in Kiely's lungs, they will be testing the water to make sure it matches the water in the reservoir. So that means looking at the aquatic debris in the water, such as sand, silt, and fragments of aquatic vegetation. This was very important in the little Gregory Villemain case, where 4-year-old Gregory Villemain was abducted and then found floating in the Valone River in France. The investigators needed to know if Gregory was alive or deceased when he was put in the water. Investigators were concerned that the child may have been deceased before he was placed with his wrists and ankles bound in that water. he had a small amount of water in his lungs, and some theorized that he may have been submerged in a bathtub prior to being placed in the river. If that case interests you, I have made several videos about it, and they're available on my channel. To identify Kiely, the pathologists will likely have used a combination of DNA, dental records, and unique body features like piercings and tattoos. We know that Kiely had 2 tattoos, her nose was pierced, and she had multiple ear piercings. And the clothes Kiely was last seen in, too, will likely have helped in her identification, presuming she's wearing those clothes. They'll also be looking at any injuries she may have sustained as a result of the crash, or injuries that may indicate that Kiely was harmed before going into the water. They'll be looking for blunt force injuries, such as abrasions, contusions, and lacerations. Note that they should be able to tell if these were sustained on land prior to submersion or upon impact with water. Does anyone remember actress Natalie Wood? On November 29th of 1981, the 43-year-old actress was found floating face down off the coast of California's Santa Catalina Island. She'd gone boating on her and her husband Robert Wagner's yacht, Splendor, the day before with actor Christopher Walken. Natalie allegedly had a bitter fight with Wagner the night before she was found in the water a mile from their yacht. The lifeguard who recovered her body said that Wood was likely alive for hours after she entered the water. He described her fingers as still being pliable when she was pulled from the water. The coroner's report detailed bruising on Wood's arms and legs and cited a 4-inch bruise on her right forearm, multiple small 1-inch fresh bruises on her left thigh, as well as fresh bruises and scratches on the backs of her legs. She also had superficial abrasions on her left forehead, left eyebrow, and left upper cheek area. Those injuries to her face suggest that she may have been struck. An investigator named Detective Ralph Hernandez said in 2018 that Wood looked like the victim of an assault. But back in 1981, when this all went down, the coroner ruled the cause of death as accident. It's possible, because it was such a high-profile case, that the coroner's office may have felt pressured to tie the case up neatly with a quick determination. But in 2011, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department reopened the investigation into Wood's death, and the chief medical examiner wrote the following: "The location of the bruises, the multiplicity of the bruises, lack of head trauma or facial bruising support bruising having occurred prior to entry in the water. Since there are unanswered questions and limited additional evidence available for evaluation, it is opined by this medical examiner that the manner of death should be left as undetermined." End quote. So in 2011, that medical examiner amended Wood's cause of death to, and I quote, "drowning and other undetermined factors," and her manner of death was changed to undetermined. Unless Wood was banging up against debris in the open ocean, it's hard to believe that all the bruises on her body came from simply tumbling off of the boat into the water. Note that they never determined exactly how Wood ended up in the water. Her husband has said that he believes she was trying to get in a dinghy around midnight when she perhaps made a misstep and fell into the water. She was found shoeless and wearing a nightgown and a red parka. Robert Wagner, Christopher Walken, and the yacht's captain are said to have spent hours searching for Natalie before alerting the Coast Guard. That's an interesting detail, no? Sadly, Natalie Wood was famously terrified of dark water. She'd even spoken about it in an interview. Tragic, absolutely tragic for her family and her children. Back to Kiely Rodni. Hopefully, all of the various investigative entities involved are keeping an open line of communication right now, working together to interpret the evidence, the coroner's report, and the toxicology reports, so that Kiely's family can get clear and unambiguous answers. It would be awful for them to be left wondering, as Natalie Wood's sister Lana has had to all these years. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories, now do me a favor, smash that like button. It's a free way you can help me. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and leave me a comment.